Hello, my family. So it's day 2 after getting my teeth pulled. I actually, just so you know, I'm okay, y'all. I appreciate all of y'all's prayers, your private messages. You've been such a loving family, and I can't thank you enough. I had molars removed, which was one up here. There was one wisdom, one molar down this side, and two molars on this side removed. So the only thing I have left is right here. This in 4 weeks will all be removed, and it was an executive decision based on the dentist and us sitting down in consultation that the best thing to do was to remove all of them, sadly, and just get top and bottom dentures. Now, does this make me feel comfortable? Absolutely not. And one reason for that is I would much rather have had all my natural. But radiation decided to take a toll. And though, like I've said before, I may be alive today and in remission from cancer, but there is usually some repercussions. The kind of radiation I had was oral, and it did serious damage to my teeth. So after all these years, it's time to do something because I'm not getting any better on them. So this is the executive decision. So for the next couple months, I'm going to be working videos in between with y'all. I might not stay on long in the first week or two. Like I said, it's been 2 days, and yes, I'm able to talk to you, but my jaw down here is sore. Now, I have to admit, it's really amazing that I don't have black and blue or anything. This guy is doing a great job for what he can do with me. I mean, I'm blessed. So, the reason for this video, it is a coffee time, y'all. I know some of you don't like coffee times, and a lot of you do. Right now, this is the best I can do, is coffee time. I do have meals that I'm making that are Mediterranean, that are soft, like you all saw. I gave you the recipe also for my Turkish lentil soup. Tonight, I'm going to attempt to eat a piece of salmon and some garlic potatoes. And my potatoes will not be just any kind. It is going to be on the Mediterranean side, where instead of butter and cream in my potatoes, I am actually going to be using olive oil, a garlic paste, and Greek yogurt in my potatoes. So that's just to let you know where I'm at right now. And I can include recipes. I will also put them in the community so you can see the dish. If this helps anybody, then I am okay to do that for you. Today, though, is our coffee time about sourdough. I have a few of you who are private emailing me, or even private messaging me, asking me what to do after you get your sourdough started. So I decided to go ahead and get on here and talk all about sourdough. Now, I do have videos where we had started our sourdough. I had given you detailed instructions, especially those who are starting with store-bought. And I will update on this one, making it all sourdough. But between store-bought and what we are doing is home milled. Now, both of these, Beethoven and Inflation, are both milled flours. So, and is it possible? Absolutely. And then I showed you how I did a sourdough bread, and it came out absolutely amazing. Now, do know though, when you're dealing with fresh milled flour, it will not be as soft and fluffy and all that, just like your store-bought. This is because we have all the bran and the germ in our flour. So it's going to be slightly dense, but I'm going to tell you, this bread was absolutely amazing. So, hold on, y'all. I may take breaks in between doing this, but we will get this out for you. What I am doing right now, this is day, I lost days, y'all. 14 back then, 15, 16. This is 16 and 17 days, one of the two. So this starter is definitely well worth working with. creating food, making sourdough, everything. It's well past its 2-week mark, and it is rising and falling beautifully. Matter of fact, over this time, I've had to put it in a refrigerator, and I just pulled it out so I can feed it and to do this video with you. Now, when it comes to the first 5 days, please know it's going to take at least a week. I don't care if you're milling or store-bought. Count on at least 1 week feeding daily. Now, if you are finding that your sourdough rises within 4 hours and dropping, and then by that evening you're having to have a flatline dough like this, sourdough starter, like back down to the rubber band mark or whatever mark you have, then it's time to feed it twice. And then again, you may have to feed it a higher ratio to be able to feed it 1 day. Now, after 7 days, you can go ahead and feed it and put it in your refrigerator. And it will take a slower point at that point. You may end up what's called hooch. That will be a dark liquid. No, there's nothing wrong. It will have an alcohol smell to it. And sometimes like a nail polish remover. That is due to the hooch. You can stir that in, you can pour that off, but it needs to be fed. It's starving at this point, is what that is telling you. You can form that liquid while sitting on your counter. You will know if your sourdough is super, super active is if it starts forming this hooch on your counter before your next feeding. You're going to have to change your ratio more than likely, or you're going to have to start putting it in your refrigerator to slow its process down, because you got a highly active starter if not. So at this point, for the first 5 days, but now the reason I say 7 at least, and I would particularly say 2 weeks, basically for me, I did choose 2 weeks for this because 1, it's milled, but 2, I want to make sure that my sourdough starter is the ultimate high, rise, and low before I make a bread and waste all my products. Now, though I may stock up on wheat berries, it still can go pretty fast. So, I mean, I've already looking at getting another 25-pound bag of hard white wheat, because we do go through that the most. Your mixture, I would choose. Now, if you are doing sourdough starter from milled, this one has been made with nothing but hard white wheat berries. Hard white wheat is considered almost like a bread flour. Now, if you wanted to do half and half, you can mill half hard red wheat, which is like your whole wheat flour, half whole white wheat, which is like your bread flour. Mix those two together and you can make your sourdough starter out of that. Or you can use hard white wheat, just plain that. My ratio that I am currently using right now on Beethoven, which is my mother. This is the one where I can take a batch of discard and I can bake with it, or I can create another sourdough starter from her. That is exactly where inflation came from. Inflation is the prodigal child of Beethoven. And then on inflation, which was really perfect name for this, y'all, because it does rise quite well and fall, and it's unpredictable. But I have been using a ratio on inflation of a 1-to-2 ratio, which means 50% or 50 grams of sourdough starter, 100 grams of flour, and 100 grams of water. The reason for that is I get a bigger quantity for baking. So I have 2. You can choose to do that. This way I'm not using all of this starter. I make a recipe and find I have nothing left. I'd rather use Beethoven as my mother source. I will keep feeding her, and I could put her in the refrigerator because she is old enough, she works well, and I can just let her do what she's going to do while I keep inflation and work with inflation. So that is an option there. Before I get ahead of myself, which I've already done, first 5 days. Now, if you are just starting sourdough, let's start that. Take notes. Please take notes. I am going to try to put this in the description as much as possible. Give me just a few minutes, y'all, and I will be right back with you. All right, y'all, I am so sorry. Like I said, I have to take breaks in between. My jaw is still sore, so I just have to, and it's not tremendously really, really bad. It's just sometimes I got to take a break. So, starting off, your first 3 days, whether you have store-bought, I'm going to start there. If you have store-bought flour you're wanting to make sourdough yeast out of, write this ratio down. This is what you are going to start with. You're going to do a half and half. So, at 25 grams, 25 divided by 2, 12 and a half grams of bread flour, unbleached. 12.5 grams, which is 12 and a half grams of whole wheat flour. Now here's what you can do. It'll make it easier for you. Make a batch a week's worth. Take 175 grams of unbleached bread flour, 175 grams of whole wheat flour. That is 350 grams. Will give you a week's worth of feeding for your sourdough starter in your beginning. Mix that together, and then you're going to use that to weigh out what you need. Here is what you're going to need if you're just now starting sourdough starter. You need 25 grams of your flour mix, and you need 25 grams of distilled water. Don't use tap water. Mix that up very well. Put it in a dark, cool place or dark area for 3 days. Leave it alone. You want it to be able to start building on its own. It's going to need that time to fight the battle between bacteria and everything. And it takes a good 3 days just to even do this. You are not going to mess with this. You're just going to leave it in a dark area for 3 days. You can check on it. See if you're getting any activity with bubbles or anything. And usually by day 3, you should start seeing something. Now, again, I've done said, if you see bubbles, this is a fantastic. Like I said, on this, let me see if I can show you. These need fed. So, bubble activity like you see right there. Okay, if you start seeing that, then you know you're on a good start. But if you start seeing pink or fuzzy or anything at the top of your lids, discard it because it did not work. A bad bacteria took over and your sourdough is bad. Nothing wrong. Change your area. And I will say, these lids right here, as you see, I've got this on here. This has been the best lids I have found. I take and I put it all the way closed. When you go to feed it, back it up one. You want your lid on, but loose. And what this does is it allows the gases to escape, and it keeps from exploding your jar. But yet it protects your sourdough from any of the elements like dust and that from getting into your starter. This absolutely helps. So that's with the store-bought. Now, if you're milling your own flour, you're going to do the same process for 3 days. But you're going to use your mixture of what I told you, either hard red and hard white mix, and you can do the same amount. There's going to be a problem with you. What we do and what I will do is on my milled bread or my milled flour. We can't leave our flour in a container on our shelf just like everybody from the store can. I'm going to suggest what I do is I will also put mine in the freezer. I will only make up just enough for 3 days worth, and I will put it in the freezer. And when I'm getting ready to feed my dough or my starter, I will pull that flour up, warm it up just slightly by letting it come to room temperature, and then I will start using it. The reason for it is because 1 hour's flour will go rancid otherwise. It has every nutrient and vitamin compared to the store-bought. So we get the brand, we get the vitamins, we get the germs. So we have to store ours in the freezer. So please make sure you do that. You cannot do a big bulk of it like you can with the store-bought. So just know that right off the bat. The ratio for feeding is the same now. 25 grams of your flour mix or just your hard white wheat and 25 grams of water. Mix it in your jar, seal your lid, get a dark cloth or put it in a dark area and leave it for 3 days. Don't mess with it. Check on it, but don't mess with it. Again, watch for your activity, see which way it's going. Now, it can still, after 3 days you start seeing something, go ahead and feed your starter. Now this is what you're going to do after the fact. Store-bought and milled. Both are going to do the same thing. You are now going to take 25% of your starter, 25% of your flour, and 25% of your water. Now you're going to do this daily for the next 2 days. 25, 25, 25. That's considered a 1-1-1 ratio. Okay, watch your activity. See if this rises between 4 to 6 hours or even up to 8 hours. If it rises and falls, you're looking for that. Don't be surprised still though if you're going to struggle a little bit between 4 and 5 days. You can also have it rise and fall and within the 3 days, but then 4 and 5, it might not do nothing. It's okay. You've got a very young starter, and I will tell you, milled starter is even harder. It's heavier, it's got more nutrients and vitamins, and it takes a little longer. We are advised compared to store-bought. Store-bought is advised between at least 1 week, and they can start baking their bread. Us, unfortunately, takes about 2 weeks, and I clearly understand that. We have a more nutrient-dense flour base. So, it will definitely take us longer, and it has definitely took me a good 2 weeks to be able to get my sourdough. Now, my bread wasn't this big puffy thing, but it was so amazingly good, and still, it was rather soft in some ways on the inside. So, I choose this, and the flavor was amazing. So I am staying with the milled. Okay, so now you're on day 5 and you have been rising and falling. We're going to go for day 6, or on day 5 we're going to change your ratio, still 1-1-1, but now write this down. Day 5 you want 20 or 50% starter, 50% flour, 50% water. Now you're upgrading your sourdough. And the reason for that, and that's with this one here. This one is a 50-50-50. I didn't change to this one till much, much later because I wanted bigger quantity. You can do that later. Right now, you are going to keep this small little jar and you're going to work with this one. You can always divide it off and all that much later, but right now, let's not overdo it. So 50, 50, 50 on day 5. You're going to watch its progress. You're going to feed this every single day. 50, 50, 50. Now, if you are finding that it is rising within 4 hours and dropping again before supper time or evening, you're probably going to end up feeding it twice a day. So if you are store-bought, you are almost at your 1 week mark, and it may be possible that can happen for you. By day 7, then you're probably going to go ahead and start using your for bread. But now on day 5, if everything is looking good, and on day 5, if everything is still smelling, it's starting to smell good and all that, we're going to get into smell next. If it's starting to smell like a nice sourdough and you go to take off your discard, now you find that after you're 50 and that you have, because you're going to have discard, y'all. Half of that's going to have to go. You can start using that at day 5. For those who are store-bought, you can start using that, making crackers or whatever you want, pancakes, stuff like this. It's called sourdough discard, and you can make biscuits and stuff like that out of it. You're not ready for bread yet. That won't be until at least your week's point, but you can still use it. Now, if you are on milled, honestly, you're not ready for even using that discard. The smell between store-bought flour and milled flour is way different. I'm going to tell you, when I first started this with milled, I was like, holy smokes, that is some funky smell. I raised boys, y'all, and their socks were tremendously awful. That kind of reminded me of my kids' socks. Like, it was awful. But eventually worked itself out. And that is the bacteria fighting with each other, the bad versus the good, until the good takes over. Once that happened, I have, oh my gosh, it's an amazing sourdough smell. So we won our battle, but I will tell you, it will be funky. Now, for those of you with store-bought, the possible smells that you can have, it won't be as dominant as those of us with milled, but you will still have an off scent as well. And even to the point, yours may even smell like lacquer thinner. So, and some point like that too, you may have to start feeding it twice a day if it gets too bad and it does not clear itself out. It may mean that it just is not being fed enough. You may have such a super active starter that you're going to have to do something about it. So I'm going to suggest you at that point feed it twice a day. I mean, what are you going to have? More sourdough discard? Everybody can do something with it. And if you don't have, if you're overrun with it, do you know that you can use your discard in your compost? It absolutely works. So that is an option. Hopefully I'm explaining this. So now we're on day 7. Now, give me just a second again, and I will be back starting with day 7 with store-bought, and day 7 with the milled. I am so sorry I keep pausing this on y'all. Seriously, I am. But I'm going to do what I have to do to take care of me too. So, alright, we're on day 7. Store-bought sourdough starter, you can usually start baking at this point. Now, it's going to take you some time still. Float test. How do you float test? You're going to feed your starter. You're going to watch when it gets to that point, that peak point. What do I mean by peak point? You're going to see your starter come all the way up here where it should be, about halfway on your jar. You will see a dome, pretty much. If you see that dome, it's still rising. But if you start seeing it deflate, if you start watching it come down, this is your peak. Y'all, you have reached that point as far as it's going to go. And that's a point you really want to try to catch it if you can. Is you want to catch it during that top just before it starts to fall. At that point, take a little bit of your starter, put it in cold water, and it should float. If it floats, you've got a very good starter to start making your sourdough bread with. That's how you float test. If you've ever heard that, that's how you do that. Now, I will say float testing milled flour is a little bit harder because it's a heavier base dough. So mine didn't float very well, but it still made a very nice loaf of bread. So it's a hit or miss on milled flour. But even then, at day 7, y'all, milled, you're not ready yet. Sorry, y'all. You're not ready yet at day 7. So we've got 14 days, basically, before you're ready. Or at least 10. So I think I made my first sourdough bread. Mine, this might be even older than that. I started actually making bread at day 13 on mine. So yeah, and it worked great. It was just about 2 weeks, and my bread came out beautiful, as you saw what it looked like. So mine was day 13, practically 2 weeks. So I did wait, and I would suggest you doing the same thing. It's a pain in the tail end to feed this every single day, but it's going to be worth it in the end. Milled flour takes longer to produce a sourdough starter. However, it can be done. It's not impossible. I'm using it, y'all. I actually like this flavor better than I did from the store-bought, to be honest. So now, day 7, you're making bread store-bought. You're making bread and you're using your discard. Now, you don't want to keep feeding this every day. I mean, you're going to be wasting a lot of flour. If you want to, so be it. Go for it. But you can, at this point, feed your starter, put it in the refrigerator. Pull it out, let it come to room temperature just before you're getting ready to bake a loaf of bread. Do your leavening and all of that stuff the night before, and prepare your bread as the instructions would tell you to do. And that's what I would do. If you want to save, because flour is expensive. I don't care whether we're milling it or store-bought, it's getting expensive. Hence the reason we turn around and make our own. So can our what do you call it? Yeast. Hang on, y'all. Okay, y'all, I had a phone call to take care of, so I apologize. So I think we're on, I kind of lost track now. I think we're on day 7. So day 7 is basically your store-bought flour. You ought to be able to have a nice sourdough starter, and you don't even have to worry about yeast at this point. You can make yeast bread, or you can make sourdough starters, and I'm doing a lot more recipes. I will be adding to this channel using fresh milled flour. I found some beautiful bread sources, y'all, for all of us, that we can have so many different things. Once my dental work is completely done and everything is healed, I have a cinnamon roll recipe that I'm getting ready to do, but I will not be using regular sugar. I will be using it for my diabetic husband to be able to eat this. I will tell you, now I made him chicken and dumplings yesterday and milled our own hard white wheat. I made him dumplings out of that, y'all. And 2 hours after he ate his chicken and dumplings, which the mix was from our pantry. I had a chicken soup mix and put it in the jar, and I've had it on the, hold on a minute. Sorry. All right, y'all, I am so sorry. Yeah, neighbor needed, you know what, everyday life, you all know that this homestead is also real. So back to chicken and dumplings. The results of what happened, bottom line is, 2 hours after my husband ate a home canned base chicken soup, basically. It had chicken broth, chicken pieces, some onions, some celery. It was canned up with some turnip greens, and so we used that, and I made milled whole wheat flour based dumplings. Worked out amazingly well. Added some cream to it, made creamy chicken and dumplings. 2 hours after he ate it, his blood sugar was 88. Now, everything that I have been making him, now this is not normal. I know he's on medication, y'all. But even with medication, we have fed him stuff that spiked him. But it had to do with store-bought base. So it's not just the medication. It is also how or what we are using. So the medication does help, and I get that. But again, it also has to do the sources. I am finding that every source we make, from pasta, dumplings, bread, tortillas, his blood sugar has not reached past 130. And so we are finding that this is a source that he needs, that if he wants to have a regular life with bread products, this is the way to go. We are also finding within the week, everything has been beautiful with us, even with everyday life. As far as bread sources, again, I've told you before, we are choosing, and you will always find that whenever I bake anything on this homestead, it is going to be with milled flour for two reasons. One, for my husband, because his diabetes type 2 is working with this, and for me, it's a lot better on me. I'm not bloated. Um, Life is more regular, and I can actually not gain a super amount of weight. I do gain water weight with this, but I am not, I'm maintaining quite well. And now I don't eat this every day. Just to be honest, we don't eat this every day, but we do make it a regular part of our diet. Now, even if we ate it every day, we can choose to what time, whether we want it for supper or whether we want it in the morning. We don't go crazy with this either. So grains are part of our everyday diet, along with the legumes and beans. So this is what we're doing. I will say that I absolutely enjoy this new sourdough flavor. And so that's the reason why I encourage you. And I do have a lot of my millers with us these days. And I'm learning, a lot of you who have subscribed, bless you. Welcome to the family. You have found that I am now a miller with you. And you are curious as what can we do? Can we even do a sourdough? Or can we, how do I make, what do I make with this wheat? And some of you are just now starting to get interested in this. You are just starting to get into it, and I'm here to help you. So that's what we're doing right now. Like I said, I will be doing some more videos once all of this work's done. I go back in 4 weeks for more work, y'all, so just bear with me. I'm gonna have to work in between here and finding things to do until all of this is over with. And I assure you, it will be over with, and I will be right back to normal. I may be doing some videos very soon. I'm planting some of our seeds because it looks like we're going to have a pretty mild the rest of this time before spring starts. So that's about it, and I'm hoping I helped. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Again, y'all, I'm going to hate to say this to you, but please check your subscriptions. Hit that like button. Please keep us motivated and keep us moving. These are the sources you can do for that, is hit that like button and make sure you're still subscribed. I would greatly appreciate it. I would like to keep going because I believe that this homestead has a lot to offer. And I thank many, many of you for your loving prayers, your hugs you've sent my way. You're amazing, and I can't thank you enough. I also want to thank you for being a part of this family, for all of you who are new, for some of you who've been here but never spoken and letting me know. Thank you. Thank you to every one of you who is a huge part of this family, who keeps us going as much as possible. But unfortunately, you are going to have to check if you're still subscribed, because many are still coming to me, why is this happening? I honestly don't have the answers for that. I told you, if I have answers, I will reply. But if I don't, I'm also going to be the one to tell you I don't have the answers. And that is one of them. So, and I do know to keep me in the algorithm, hit that like button. Now, I'm going to get off here right now and rest my jaw. So, I'm hoping this has helped you. And like I said, please, if you have questions, put them in the comments. I am watching, and I will get back to you and answer your replies with a reply if I can. I love each and every one of you, and I'm hoping to be back full force with you again very soon. Once time goes on this couple weeks, I will be back to regular videos again up until the point of my next set of procedure. So we're just going to have to work that way. I love y'all. Thank you for hanging with me. Seriously, thank you for hanging with me. And until next time, much love from Parton's Heritage Homestead.